Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to go through this. I'm not going to read through. This is definition, but the keywords I'm going to use word is in Bank of England, they use FCA and the PRA use the word intolerable harm, which I'm going to go through after this. I think what I'm trying to emphasize to you is this. I did not say this scale is very good. I say among all the central banks or all the implementation, somehow or other, Bank of England have pushed this scale one level down to standardize it across the community. I have a problem with quantifying what is intolerable harm. I have a big problem. That's not my only concern, which is what the speaker yesterday was confirming what I just said. The other thing is, you notice they use the word soundness, stability, and resilience of the financial system. The other reason why we are having problem with this big definition is because two regulators are coming in. One is the FCA, the other one is the Prudential Agency. So two agencies are trying to take one definition. And that's the reason why this definition becomes very convoluted. If you look at the facts, you look at the peso, very straightforward. All right, so this is just example. I only want to highlight the word intolerable harm because I'm going to follow through. The soundness, stability, you know, at the end of the day, anything that any critical service that you are doing affects me as a central bank and my entire banking community is considered important services. That's why just I was asking Charlie, did you talk about, do you handle the liquidity issue, the payment, the settlement? Answer is no. But if it's no, then you're missing the point. Soundness and stability of the financial system. Okay, next comment. This is the one critical services is central bank I run and MAS. You see, MAS calls themselves a BCM policy, but yet they issue this. It's funny. I just find it very funny. That's all. Okay, so same thing is a business services, and they deliberately say business services is not equal to business function. They especially say that very clearly. So it's disruptive, significant impact to organization safety and soundness, its customer or other organization that depends on the business services. Very generic. Okay, so if you take the important business services, it's slightly more precise, but I think all of them mean the same, except like I say, if you choose to be very detailed in the choice of words, I'm quite concerned. Okay, so just like say, focus on what exactly they are looking for, and after this half-day class, I'm going to just share you how all these things will come together. The last one will be critical operation. This is issued by the Feds. By the way, Hong Kong MA uses the same thing, and the Basel use the same words. So it's called critical operation. They use the word business output, single customer lens. That's what it is implying. Remember last week, the previous week, I showed you the customer length. Critical customer is the lens and up to the party risk at the end. That's how I interpreted this portion, because you can't use this definition as the definition. You have to use this definition, break it down, and say this is critical business function or critical operation to Liberty Mutual, to ING Bank example. I would see it that way. Okay, so that's where you have to contextualize back. The only way you can reconfirm is the central bank has to tell you whether you're right or wrong. That's all I can. If that's where we have the line, there's a consultative line to one of your representative linked to a central bank. You have to talk to them. Okay, and for now in Asia, it's totally lost. They're saying good. I hear you. That's all. Okay, that's what we're hearing in this part of the world. Okay, then the rest is delivery of goods and services. Same thing. The problem I have with this one is it's quite similar to critical business function. ISO 22301. Very similar, except for the business output. This is a major word that I deliberately highlight because it shows that business output, if you follow the language of the facts, regulatory comment later on, they'll go into all the other things that seems to come back to back to my terminology called critical business services. All right, so these are the people who are having in. So people in Hong Kong, like just now I was talking to Veronica, Hong Kong MA is quite close to Europe. Okay, the other good news is that for anyone you governing Australia, APRA is very close to it. All right, so this will give you at least an idea of it, of what's going on. So I repeat, there's a few standards running around the world. A lot of people are aligning to some of these standards. So this is what I've read in detail, and this how I've interpreted. So I may be wrong, but this is the closest we can have. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is, for consistent reason, I'm going to tell you, I will use the word critical business services throughout the whole 3 hours. Okay, other terms used, there will be other regulators who use other terms. I'm not going to go into those discount. The Japanese just came out with their own terminology. Okay, so I'm not going to share because it's still a consultative paper. So the FSA Japan has issued one, but hang on for a while. Don't jump. The FSA Japan are very slow. So you read and wait. Whatever you do in 3 months, they're going to do in 6 months. Okay, so take your time when you handle the Japanese, because the regulator has to double confirm everything they do. So they have their own terminology, and it's Japanese. I think Deloitte has translated into English for us. Okay, that was what I saw in one of the articles. Okay, so what I want to go around the table quickly is that in your organization, what terms do you use? I think is given already. Okay, then let's start with you.
I think we're primarily hearing so far important business services, but we're certainly listening to where we may be hearing folks in different parts of our operation also use critical. But I think in our conversations around planning and sort of thinking about our work ahead right now, we are kind of thinking about important business services.
Okay, I think that's a good point. Okay, what you are going to get from this course is not super duper knowledge. What I'm trying to throw to you is what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing as a third party. I hope this view is useful. That's what I'm trying to achieve. And I've worked with a lot of regulators before, thrown out of the boardroom before by them, by the way. So, but the more important thing is to give you a view, and you have to take your position, because you are going to fight your board later. Why did you differ from the Feds?
Right. So and you're referencing the Feds a few times this so far today, and just wondering, I don't think we have anything explicit from them yet in this space, but just checking in with you to make sure that maybe we haven't missed something that they are either signaling or that they have released.
What I see in the US is, in every country, is this: they will hit the banks first.
Yeah.
Then once they hit the tier 1 banks, they hit the more you hit the tier 2 banks, they'll hit the big insurance company, and then the investment house, the stock exchange, at one go. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, Dr. Go, I think so that makes sense, right? And that's why you're right. We've seen this happening in other requirements and so forth. I think the question for us is, we've seen that there has been, some discussion among the Feds as to what the requirement would be. There has been some inquiries and some papers on it, but I do not believe that there is anything that has been issued so far that says you need to follow XYZ, something that is as clearly defined as what's, the PRA has or APRA has and so forth, right? I think this is still consultative at this moment, correct? I mean, yes. Okay, all right. We just want to make sure that we're not missing something that
correct.
We've been combing through things and we didn't see anything. So
you guys are way ahead. By attending this course, I think I know where you're coming from. You're trying to see what's going to happen soon. Or for your information, the insurance company in this part of the world is actually just doing reading. I'm going to tell you, the AIG and the AXA of the world, I'm going to tell you the truth. They are just reading. They are not even complying. But they are being hinted by the central banks to their chief risk officer that they will comply. But the regulations under the monetary authority, tier 1, tier 2 is under the same authority. Yours may be different, but once I've cleared tier 1, logically I'll come to tier 2. That's what all the central banks will do actually. Looks like you guys are really big, and then you have your own state of requirement. But generally, I think we are heading in the right direction. But like I say, I'm going to give you a heads up, like Dora. Dora is something you will not be hit for a while because you're an insurance company. But our friends in the bank there are all like Charlie is preparing now. Dora is nothing new. It's been around for 2 years already. And now I think they're stepping up. They're stepping up. So that's what you're going to see in the market. Okay, so good comment, Virginia and Dan. Okay, Veronica, what's the term that you are using in Slovakia?
Yeah, so we need to cover the global. As we have 48 entities, so 48 countries. So we have all regulators which are existing in whole the world. So what is so we have a. So do you want to just hear whether we have a critical business services functions, or what is the definition of the operational resilience in our company?
Do we have a common term that you use in ING?
So we use critical business services.
Critical business. Okay, that's good enough for now. But you know that if with 48 countries, there's going to be probably about 20 definition.
Yeah, and my question is when we are creating, because currently I'm creating, let's say, the framework. So how the whole definition should be settled. So your suggestion is that on the global level, so we have a headquarter in Netherlands. So more or less it's Europe, European Central Bank. So your suggestion is that we need to have on a global level following the ECB, so European Central Bank, or we need to also cover all definitions for the rest of the countries, or they need to, because currently what we still have in all global documents, that if there are any local let's say restrictions, which is much, let's say, stricter than the global one, then it's prevail.
Correct. So you have a global definition, then you have a deviation.
Yeah,
this is Singapore. It's called BCM. Yes, sir. So this you deviate, but generally you have, so that you can implement a global initiative much faster. However, be open to change the definition.
Yeah.
Be open to change the definition, but allow deviation. And then that's where to me, the whole thing starts with critical business services. If we get that right, we are consistent with the bank. What you are going to benefit is you can share whatever you've developed across the world. I'm not joking. Across the world, because your applications are similar, your services are similar. Okay, the structure may be slightly different, but you can share it across about 60 to 70% of whatever you have. And that, as a global head or whoever you call yourself, people appreciate it and they will work for you. That's how I see it. Standardize that and help them to do a jump start. And that's how I see us. I mean, if you're at global level, help your agency, because you are ahead by 2 years now, right? BCB has been up, the Fed has been up, or even though you guys do not need to comply, but you are up for 2 years already. The only thing is catch up, start to set it up. When the ball is thrown at you, you just react, catch it, and then give it to everybody. Okay, that's what we do. Okay, so in Veronica case, they are using the BCB definition. Charlie, yours.
Yeah, we're very much using the definition of important business services, and we're broadly leveraging that definition that you shared from Central Bank of Ireland, which obviously looks out through the lens of customer harm, policyholder protection, and market stability. yeah, as it stands at the moment, the central bank of Ireland requirements are very clear in terms of what they expect ultimately the board to be responsible for and approve. So let's say the criteria for selecting important business services and the important business services themselves, all of that is traveling kind of as we speak over the last number of weeks to the board for formal approval. So that's kind of all in train in our own organization at the moment.
Okay, good. For some of you, you may want to look at what the Central Bank of Ireland has done. The three steps approach, that was quite interesting with a roof on top. Actually the guy who wrote it is he actually wants it to be progressive. Very good, very well done. Okay, so I think that's another example of seeing what other regulators are doing, and they will just write me high BOE actually in the implementation. Okay, Neil, do you have any any definition you have in your power operation?
Torgoy, in our sector in power here in the Philippines, we don't have any standard yet issued by the government. That's the challenge now here. So that's why in our industry in power, the government has advised us only to implement the business continuity management, but they did not talk any standard where we can be guided in crafting our business continuity management. But for this operational resilience, I think this is the most fitted term here in our sector is the critical operation. This is the easiest. I think this is the easiest way in terms of understanding of our board. Critical operation is the most fitted term in our power generation. Other services we can categorize as important or critical in terms of, for example, in maintenance services, electrical services, technical services. But this critical operation always refer to the power generation.
Okay, so I know it's quite challenging to hear all the banking and then suddenly you come to power. But what I want you to do is, while being one of the non-mainstream in this exercise, try to contextualize. I think one of the things I can hear you is that, like I say, there are actually already standards in the US. Yeah, there is. I mean, like I say, you're one step ahead. You're one step ahead in your industry. Okay, I think that would be one advantage we have for here. Okay, good. So basically, all of you are following some form of central bank standard. Like I say, the takeaway after this discussion is this: like what I told you, you can use the standard, but you can also allow, if you're a global team, you allow yourself for some contextualization or deviation. Okay, if you don't guide them this way, then you cannot have a consistent critical business services. Now, I'm going to tell you, my character is slightly different. When I went to Standard Chartered Bank, my idea was to standardize every single plan throughout the 52 countries. That was my objective. It took me 3 years. Okay, but to standardize, it means this: any one of you can come from any country. You walk into any of my branch in anywhere in Timbuktu, you will be able to call the plan, you will be able to turn to section 3, and section 3 will operationalize the recovery. That is how I see it. So, I mean, that's me. But you find that oh no, Dr. Go is crazy guy. He's just want to have control over things. I believe in standardization, and it's good for the whole organization. So once you standardize, then what happens is it allows things to be transferred. It also allows a lot of sharing. Like example, you can share your critical business services among everybody. And what they need to do is they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They just have to take it, and they'll respect you because you are the one who is feeding them information. That's why you're global. You're the head office. Okay, so that's how I see you guys doing it. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going quickly go around the table one more time. Tell me, sorry, I typed this wrongly. What is a critical business services in your organization? Please ignore the word function. I just typed this before I start the session. Okay, let's start off with Virginia. Let's start with you. What's the critical business services in your organization?
For us, it would be claims payment would be one of those.
What payment again?
Claims payment.
Oh, claim payment. Yeah.
Yeah, it has its impact the customer, and obviously this is part of this is a very important step for us. I probably would single so policy creation, policy renewal, policy cancellation, likely. That would be my initial thoughts.
So just share with everybody how many critical operations do you have?
How many critical business
services
so you said
we have?
operation services, right? So
Yeah.
services, I think Dane and I were talking, we don't think we're going to have more than probably 20 to 30 tops,
Wow.
we think. But where it's going to differ is that we have different products and we may have different regulatory needs and different things. So I think the primary kind of like the primary list, we think we're going to have between 20 and 30 that will be replicated from operation to operation or entity to entity.
Okay.
But there may be additional ones or slight variation because we don't necessarily sell the same product, or we may not have the same regulatory requirement associated with things. So I think there's going to be a certain degree of consistency in what's going to be the minimum critical business services that we'll have across the enterprise, with a local flavor to it. And then there may be a couple of extra ones that would be specific to a particular organization based on where they operate, based on maybe, again, a regular requirement or something that is very unique to what they do. Like we don't necessarily have life product across the globe. We have it only in certain pockets, right? There are different requirements associated with that. We have auto everywhere. So we probably would have auto claims payment probably across the portfolio.
Actually, that's very interesting. So Dan and Virginia, that's exactly what I just said. If you do this 30, literally everyone in your entire international setup can actually take it and then just customize. But when they customize, they might tell you what's the difference. Yes, you're done. You can go back to the board and say, now, thanks to operational risk, we are now integrated.
And I think
then any comment?
Sorry, Dr. Go. I think the other reason that we want to have that is that ultimately we want to have a global view of our vulnerability. So if we don't have a common framework, and if we don't have kind of like guidelines as to what those are the standards or the baseline critical business services that we want to have across the organization, it's going to make it very difficult for us to really have a global view, because we could be comparing apple to oranges, right? We want to have kind of like the same thing so that we can really compare things and we can have a better global view of our risk, vulnerabilities, and controls that we have.
Wonderful. That's exactly what the whole operational risk philosophy is all about.
It's a little bit of a mystery still, though. We hope that we have somewhere like 20 to 30. But of course, we're going to have to be interacting with our business partners and leaders. And I think everyone here knows the struggle of having those conversations of, who's more important than someone else in terms of the service delivery, and how we kind of manage all those conversations. And probably in our roles and in our sort of, specialty area, probably have to become a little bit more directive, or I don't know, manage it a little tighter than say we did in the business continuity space, where you think about recovery time objectives, and everybody wants to be first and all that. So I think we're going to have to just change our interaction process and be a little bit more I don't know, firm or directive, or tell our story a little differently than we have in the past. I just did notice, Dr. Go, when Virginie said 20 or 30, you reacted with
yes.
And I'm trying to think, do you sense that that's a little high, a little low? What it's that?
I'll show you one business services after this.
Okay.
That's how complicated it's going to be. I drew a very simple picture. It's inside your book. It's a very simple picture, but you can imagine a large, you have 30 of these giant map, spider map.
Yeah.
It is really, really tough.
Yeah.
So that's something I have. It's like, no, now you literally document the entire Liberty Mutual. Literally, you document the entire, with the processes, with the product, with the people, with the interdependency and all these things. Everything's in.
Yeah.
That's why
Of course.
I get a face, because I was expecting, let's start off with 3 to 5. That's why when you say 30, I say, oh, wow, well done. Done a
I
good
haven't
job.
done it yet, but
we
of course
haven't done it yet. It's
Yeah.
probably
No, don't worry,
today's
don't worry.
point.
This is a class, so don't worry about it. There's
I
Kenneth will share you something called Operation Resilient Vision
yeah.
and Operation
And-
Resilient Strategy later on. Yeah.
And I think for us, we're also thinking about to roll this out, right? We're gonna define a pre-scope, like kind of a scope, and we may do it
Yes.
in increments. So although at the end we may get to 20 or 30, and again, this is a number based on initial conversation, but this could be lower or this could be higher, who knows, right? But we're thinking this may be the sweet spot, but we don't necessarily going to do all, let's say we end up with
Yes,
25,
yes.
we're not necessarily going to do all 25 at the same time. We may focus, let's say, maybe first on our claims organization and then focus on that. And then maybe we focus on, our underwriting organization or whatever it may be, right? So, so those are the kind of thinking that we're starting to process, because we understand that, to your point, it's going to be a lot of work. It's a lot of there's a lot of interdependency among multiple groups, and
Yes.
it's a lot of individuals that that will need to be involved, and time is money, right? So and people are
Yes.
busy and they have their own jobs to
Yes.
getting the buy-in from leadership is one, obviously, of the things that we want to make sure that people are supporting this effort. But then two is making sure that we can actually get people's time and that there is enough, like how do you say, like they have the time to do it, and there is enough bandwidth to do it, because we're not going to be successful if we're doing it in silos and by ourselves. So those are the challenges that we expect we are going to be facing. But again, we're going to have, as we roadmap, we're probably going to chunk things out. We're not going to do everything at the same time, because I don't think it's manageable. We're too big. And I don't know how, Veronica, you're approaching it, because as you're similar than us in the sense that you have a global scope. Are you thinking about the same kind of a similar approach where you're going to chunk things out, or what's your initial thought on that?
This
Currently,
Virginia is now my assistant in facilitator. Virginia,
See,
Veronica,
I'm
you're
sending
next.
your voice.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, so currently what is done in our bank is that we identified it was 9 CBSs, so critical business services for wholesale banking, and 9 we have for the retails. So
okay.
what was done, that it was prepared on the global level, and now we just send it to the entities. But it's also not done that all, let's say, the CBSs was sent directly to everyone, and we it's not possible to manage in one time. So we just spread it. That firstly we need to finalize the first 3 for the wholesale banking. And we are just preparing. So it was just the first rollout. So what we have done on the global level, entity needs to do it locally and need to decide whether it on a local level it's the same approach, or they have, for example, for them is not critical, or they see the criticality somewhere else. But firstly, it was just out the questionnaire. So just to decide what is the similar to the BCM, like RTO and MOT. And yeah, there was a question which needs to be filled in to decide whether it's critical or not. And currently what we are preparing for, so they need to also, they had to decide it about the impact tolerance. And currently what we are preparing on the global level is the testing scenario. So, and it will be then sent to entities, whether they can have it the same, or it will be the different, because it can be the entity per entity. So I do not know whether I just respond to your question or not, but it's not possible to create in one time all CBSs and then just to send it to the entities. It's not possible.
It's probably, I'll answer the question. There's no right or wrong answer. How much resources you have and how you want to structure it. And I think the question goes back to what is your OR vision, which we'll discuss in greater detail later on. From the overall vision, that's where someone of you are saying, how do you chunk it to say that year 1, year 2, year 3, year 3, how will you achieve it? The other one that the reason why Virginia, my eyes pop out just now when you say 30 to 40, ING
No, 20
is
to 30. 20 to 30.
20 to 30. The reason I use that is ING is a wholesale and retail bank, and we are talking about 18.
Yeah.
Okay, just to give you a feel. Okay, so that's I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's how even a big bank can actually chunk it to about and then one other thing you may want to consider is that have champions. For example, you were saying just now, we have people in doing what you call it, auto insurance. So the group of people will specialize in auto insurance, will come together and do the CBS. You know what I mean? They will champion that thing and come back to you as a subgroup. People are doing they say life insurance, which is not your mainstream anyway. So they will champion the group and come back to you, right? So that's how we can spread our resources globally by getting champions to say, since you're a subject matter expert on the ground, you talk to among this group, and then of course with the blessing of the management, and then form their own subgroup, and they'll come back and report to you. But you control the framework and the content and the sequencing, so that you can go back to the board. The board only wants to see something very simple. I'm sorry to tell you. Every time I go to the boardroom just want to say, show me what you have, show me what you've done, but don't tell me there's 35 pictures. I'm not going to see that kind. That's for you to do, not for me. But show me how it looks like, and it must be consistent globally. So now you're dealing with the board. You're no longer dealing with your BCM steering committee or your operational risk steering committee or your risk steering committee. You're moving one level up. You're entering the boardroom, and the boards want to see something simple and something consistent. Okay, that's the only thing I need to advise you, because if you enter a board enough time, they are like small kids who just want to tell me in a simple story. If you can, 10 minutes, tell me everything. I need to do what you're going to do for the whole year. Okay, and tell me it's done at the end of the year. So that's normally what boards does to do. Okay, we go on to Charlie first. Charlie, what's yours?
So I think at the moment it's still slightly draft, but it's looking like we'll have 12 important business services.
Okay.
Now we have a couple of subsidiary entities. One of those subsidiary entities is going to be within that 12. But the other subsidiary isn't likely to be within that 12, so it's likely they'll have probably an additional 2 or 3. So I think we'll probably land somewhere between probably 12 and 14.
Okay. Give me example. Give me an example of one of the companies.
So let's say one of our important business, or probably our most critical important business service would be the ability for a customer to receive a payment. And then we would have a corollary important business service, which would be the ability for a customer to make a payment.
Okay.
So those two would be separated out as separate and distinct important business services. And then, the other important business services that we have would be similarly within the impact space of payments. So we've important business services around the ability of making debit card payments, or being able to receive a loan drawdown. So if a customer is taking a mortgage, that they're able to fulfill and receive the mortgage payment. So a lot of it really is through that customer lens, particularly because we're Bank of Ireland itself is kind of very much heavily a retail bank.
Okay, I normally don't do this. Any one of you have any question on each other? Okay, no, very nice of you guys. Okay, anyway, the idea of this this sharing is to tell you the numbers. I'm not saying numbers are right or wrong, but I'm just trying to say each critical business services, if you do it correctly, it can be a bit monster. That's the only comment I had. So I'm later we'll talk about this, how this monster looks like after this. All right, so I think that's I'm just going to go clear. Let's clear off with the content of this this set of slides first. Then we'll go for a quick 5 minutes break. Okay, the most important thing is the reason why I'm having this discussion is actually it falls into this. What is a business services? I think that's the question that everybody's asking when they first started. Okay, and now you guys are getting clearer. And that's where you guys like Veronica, I would say I have what 9 plus 9, or Charlie would say I have this, and Virginia would say I have 20 to 30. This is called business services. Now, business services is a collective, is actually a single service end to end. Like just now, Charlie was saying that is ability to pay. It's a payment. It's basically a payment system all the way, but with the customer and also with the technology to make sure the payment is going through at the third party, at the third party or outsourced area. So it's a single service now. It's not a collection of services. I think that's something that I'm beginning to see, that a lot of people are putting collection of services. So you have to think it as a conduit end to end, because we are designed to work in silos. But for this case, we have to build a conduit which encompasses everybody. All right. So this is the first comment. So you want to click on what's critical business services, you just click. Now this is just a simple example. This one I pick up from one of the central banks. Online customer portal, mobile application, communication channel, logistic delivery services, financial services. So so this is basically the part of it. Okay, what is not business services? This is the part that very contentious. I did not ask you to remove it from your current business services. I'm just asking you to focus on this. What I want you to do is, because if your business services map is too big, then you have to justify for your boss why certain part can be removed. That's basically what I'm trying to guide you. But you find that you can put everything in, by all means do so. Okay, but I'm seeing a couple of maps which is really monsters. Okay, so there's a first thing. One is called internal services. I would not regard this as a service. Internal services is like human resource, payroll. Do you put payroll, human resource into your critical business services? Anyone, all you in the room? Do you put it in? Some will, some no, right? Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm just trying to tell you there's no right or wrong answer, but you may want to take this out so that you make your map much more simpler. Okay, again, I'm not telling you to take out. I'm just telling you, you can define it this way. Okay, number 2, underpinning services. Any services that's interconnected, like example, you have a system connecting, you have a group system that connects all the business together. I call that underpinning service. Actually, you can take it out. Okay, just food for thought. Again, I'm not asking you to take it out. I'm just asking you, I would not consider as a business services when I map it, but it's still a business services from a common point of view. Yes, Virginia.
Yeah, so following this logic or this thinking, I just want to walk you through a scenario or a thought. So going back to claims payment, right? So for us, this is likely going to be a critical business service. Part of that, one of the dependency is our treasury team to be able to actually process the payment. Do we treat the treasury process of actually processing the payment, releasing the payment to the customer, and so forth as an underpinning service, which I think that's what it is, or should it be a critical business service because it is so unique? Or is it both? I don't know.
You make the call. I would one level down call finance will be underpinning services.
Yeah.
Treasury is borderline.
Okay.
Treasury is very borderline. I don't know your business well enough to give you that kind of advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if
Because
you're talking about
there is a dependency, right, to it.
yes,
So but it's also a very important
correct. Yes, so
service
you
in
have
a
to
sense, right?
I need you to understand that. But I'm going to stretch it because after treasury it goes to finance, right?
Yes, but finance is not that important in the sense that I mean it's
Finance
both.
becomes like
It's
internal
kind of,
services or underpinning services.
yeah.
So
So
treasury
I'm
is
not.
where you have to make the call.
Yeah,
I leave it to you. Yeah.
treasury still has an impact on the customer,
Mm.
right?
Yes, correct.
If they don't process the thing, so that's
Yeah.
why I'm okay. All right.
Just be
I guess
consistent. That's what I'm going to tell you. Be consistent. If you find that
Yeah.
I have to put treasury everywhere because it is the bulk of my work, then it is just be consistent. Just be consistent about it. And then when someone challenges you or say this is not underpinning services, you justify yourself. See, these are very important services to me. Unless you want me to take care, I'll take care. But yeah, you have no right to ask me to take out because, in my opinion, but you will see that some organization went to, after treasury, they will send it to the back office, right? After back office, they go to finance, right? To do the payment. That is internal and underpinning services. So there'll be a payment system, and for that particular purpose, clearing and the changing of currencies and all this. Those are the back end. Those to me are underpinning and internal services. I will take it out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's just
Mm.
that piece to actually send the payment to the customer, like for example, issuing a check, that would be very specific. That's the aspect of it. The whole, data entry, reconciliation for the bank account, like posting to the general ledger, all that stuff. That's not
internal
to your point.
services.
It's an internal service.
Yes,
That's
correct.
not that's not a thing.
So I'm trying to tell you, frame your services according to it. But I did not ask you to say take out treasury services.
Yeah.
I just ask you, is it in or is it out? When it's in, tell me why it's in. That's all. So there's no, for me, after talking to so many people, there's no right wrong answer anymore. It's just that if it's relevant, put it in. Later I'll show you this diagram, then it will become very interesting. Okay, so internal services are like that, as I mentioned, payroll, human resource. Okay, then the underpinnings, I want to go to a diagram. It's more fun. Okay, if you look at the diagram here, what happened is you have a critical services 1 and 2. Normally you can have a few you want to. Now, if you draw it very simply, you go by activity. That's normally how you map. You run by major activity, and then for major activity, then you start to try to tie them up, right? This is where this becomes what we call underpinning services because you're using the same application. Okay, so this becomes underpinning services. Now, then what happens? Then you continue activities and so on and so forth. So basically, what I'm trying to just in a very simplistic form is while you're doing these services, payroll comes in, finance comes in, human resource comes in, and so on and so forth. And a data entry clerk comes in and all these things, right? So these are called internal services. So you must be able to start this correctly by telling management that this is I've considered this, but because we are mapping a very big monster, this is how we're going to map it. Okay, Charlie, do you have any comment on this? Because I think you're a bit way ahead on this now.
Yeah, so we are and we aren't. We already had a significant, let's say, mapping program operating in our organization, and that predated, let's say, the operational resilience requirements. It was being stood up to try and get a better end-to-end view of the end-to-end customer picture, with a view of then kind of overlaying on the risk and control details on that. I guess long story short, there's kind of some friction or incompatibility at the moment between that program and I guess what that understood originally was stood up to deliver, and now I guess what we're trying in certain areas to repoint and say what it needs to deliver from an operational resilience perspective. So even I guess the systems that are being used at the moment to capture some of this information don't really seem quite compatible with, let's say, some of our existing risk management systems that are much more native for business continuity management and operational resilience type information and detail. So it's definitely an activity that's underway. As you said, it can be very, very complex and detailed. It really gives you a sense as to how rich, I guess, the underlying service level detail is for a business service that on the face of it you would think is pretty straightforward. And trying to get that in a coherent and understandable manner is proven difficult.
Yeah, that's exactly my sentiment of this mega map that I'm talking about. Because you can continue to draw it, it gets bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah.
And it's very hard to explain to someone when you put this spider web right in front of the face.
Particularly, I mean, I guess a lot of organizations are probably similar, right? That so much of their services are outsourced or dependent on third-party suppliers, as well as then, you know, quite a complex combination of various different in-house and outsourced technology systems. So when you start trying to put that down and map it and link it together, it becomes very, very complex very quickly.
Yeah, there is actually one consideration you may want to do. Monetary Authority of Singapore has actually created a section called third-party risk management. Third-party risk management. What happened is whatever you're discussing about, especially the outsourced vendors, they actually have a separate map. So from here, you move up to the end. Remember, when we talk about third-party risk, they created a separate map called third-party risk management, outsourcing, whatever is outside of our organization, but the CBS will link to the outsourcing, to the start point of this map. So that's what this section is all about. Interesting. I mean, this is an idea. I don't know whether it works or not, but that will because it's very hard to draw external party and internal party in one map. It's much easier to control all your let's say bank wide or insurance wide activity in one chart. That's all it is. Okay, so I think that's what we do. Neil, how is it something workable in your organization? Sorry, I think you just blew you off.
Yes, I think it's very simple for us because we are very focused only on the business output of our. So all of these internal services are our interdependency.
Correct.
to meet the contracted capacity to be delivered to our only one customer, and that is the government.
Correct.
So
in your case, just remember what I just said, internal services, underpinning services, you just put it in. Okay, you just put it in, but you can define it, but just put it in, because I think you need to draw the big picture.
Yeah.
If you truly want to be operational resilience. Okay, so that would be my recommendation based on my limited knowledge of the power industry. But from what we are seeing in the banking industry, this map has gone very, very big and very confusing. I did not introduce the people, the processes, and the technology yet. Once you throw that in, the map becomes a monster again. Okay, so this is just an example. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically what I meant by this is, to me, a very simple map. But can you imagine you start drawing the other 20, and that's how it looks like. The only thing is, how do you maintain the integrity of this map? Because someone is going to make a change and then. So these are some of the things that we shouldn't discuss in this class, by the way. But sorry, when I want to hold the master plan, I need someone to to be the central guy who would make the change to control. Yes, Dan, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Just to try to get this in my head, as we start mapping critical business services, would we include in those mappings recognition of the existence of an underpinning service or an internal service? Or would we not reference them and just kind of set them aside somehow?
It depends on how big is this map. Like what Neil has just said. Neil said, I need to all them to be into, and it's not that complicated, right? So like what you see me doing, let's say I say these two are together. I will map the internal services is here, right? Remember, I can also put underpinning services here. If your map is not complicated, no harm in it. But what I'm trying to say is that some of your maps will get very complicated.
Yeah.
Then you got to take it out. But if your map is not complicated, I would suggest you start off with this first, with your underpinning services, with your internal services. Until you get your maps get very complicated, everybody knows what's going on. Then, okay, ladies and gentlemen, strip this out so that it makes our life much easier.
These two definitions are helpful, I think, for us in sort of scoping. So it is helpful, but it just kind of takes some time to think about, well, how do we treat them if we've scoped them out? How do we treat them? How do we represent them? But I think we'll figure it out.
You can keep them in separate documentation.
Yeah.
Like what just I told Charlie to do third-party risk management. It's another document, but this document will link to this document again. But because when third-party documents, somebody is handling third-party. The other thing you must also know, the politics of your organization. The people dealing that section is not going to talk to you or listen to you. I'm sorry. I've been there, done it, and I'm very tired. Okay, I'm tired of fighting the politics. So let them own it, and then if the only thing is that they report back to me, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to do a sanity check, and then I say the sponsors sign off, and these are my rules. You follow my rules, you comply to my rules, and then you come back to me. I'm too tired of fighting all this politics, because these are third party. They say I'm procurement, I'm compliance, and none of your business. Go away. But I want it from you. It says so you have to have some more control over them, but you have no direct control over them from a roles and responsibility. But from a project point of view, they have to answer to you. So that's why the structure is very important. At the end of the day, a very senior guy can still report to you, no? Interesting, huh? A very senior guy can still report to you, even though, but because you're the functional head, they have to report to you. So you have to design this. I give you an example. When I step into a country, whenever there's a disaster, from a group standard, the CEO reports to me. They don't like it. When I fly in, I step into organization. When the crisis or disaster is happening, the CEO reports to me under the group standard. They don't like it, and they have to go to the airport with their own car and pick me up. By the way, if there's a typhoon, hurricane, they'll do the same. But when I went in, I'll make the call on the ground. So this is the rule that we have, and they don't like it. But too bad. That's how we will run this project, whether they like it or not. Okay, and I tell you, this CEO was so nice. He has been working for almost 15 hours, and I send him home. No, I send him home, and he said, "No, you have no right to send me home." I say, "Sir, you are too tired." He said, "But even I go home, I can't sleep." My comment is very simple: go and tuck in your kids and give a kiss to your wife and lie down and rest. And come back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock and replace me. All right, that's what I just told them. So then he quietly, unhappily, he went off. But I guess what I'm trying to emphasize is your role. You may be below in the hierarchy, but these people must come back to you. And that's the part which is very difficult. You have to establish now before all these things start to run out of control. Okay, so I'm just telling you how hard life is when you're doing a massive project. Okay, anyone has any question on this? This is a very simple diagram. I quite complicated because when you multiply this with another 50 activity, you can imagine how big this spider is going to be. I have not added the people, process, and infrastructure and technology. yet. So once I put in, it could be a complex message.